Okay, we're on. At this time, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and pursuant to 940 CMR 29.10, subsection 2A, remote participation is allowed by the town of Milton. Due to geographic distance, our chairman, Tom Hurley, is unable to attend in person, but will be participating remotely via telephone. So in his absence, I will act as the chair. Tom, hello.
Hi, David.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Katie.
Okay, so we're going to get right to business and get down to agenda item 2. We're going to review and approve the meeting minutes.
I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes of September 1st, September 9th, and September 15th, 2015, as written.
And I'll second that. I think I'm supposed to second that, right? So I'll second that, and then we'll do a roll call?
Yes, you
Okay.
have to do a roll call.
So I'll second that. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item agenda 3, we're going to confirm future meeting dates. The board will meet again on October 6th, October 20th, and October 26th. Are those meeting dates okay with everyone?
Good.
Those are fine with me.
And they're fine with me as well. Okay. Number 4 on the agenda is the approval of payroll vendor warrants.
I'll move approval of approval of current payroll and vendor warrants.
Second.
Okay. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item 5 on the agenda is Citizens Speak, so I'm sure we have a pretty healthy crowd out there today. Hopefully, we'll have a couple people come up and talk to about a few things. Can you please state your name?
My name is Pat Greeley.
Oh, hi, Pat. How are you?
You're good, thanks.
Hi, Pat.
How are you? 149 Bradley Road. I've been a resident there for 53 years. My family's been there over 60. I think there's something that needs to be said that's been going on for a long period of time with Curry College and the neighbors in that neighborhood. In 2004, Curry wrote a small letter, 20 lines, to the neighbors stating that they were going to put in a synthetic turf field, which was about 3 lines of the letter, and the rest of the letter concerned the drainage and different parking structure they're going to do for the parking lot. As the job came to an end on the football field, we noticed there was an anchor in the ground. So a few of the neighbors went down and looked at it and noticed that this anchor was going to hold poles, light poles. So we came up and talked to the town planner. I'm sorry, not the town planner. We talked to the town administrator at that time, and it was not Anne Marie Fagan at that time, and also the building commissioner. Both of them looked at us and said, there's no lights going at Curry College. And even the building inspector said, I saw plans, there's no lights at Curry College. So we went into the planning office, opened up the plans, and there were no lights on the plans. But sure enough, another month later, less than a month later, there was 6 83-foot poles with altogether 132 lights, just compared to Milton High School that has 40 lights on their field. Not shielded, nothing at all that was put up. We came up to the town immediately and started talking to the selectmen one at a time. None of these selectmen obviously were involved at this time. And they were all appalled at what we told them what was going on. And they say obviously they would look into it immediately and get back to us. And that pretty much the chase was on, that we never heard anything back from any of the selectmen. We had to chase them down. And when we did finally talk to the selectmen, their answer was, there's nothing I can do about it. So if I'm talking to 3 different selectmen in my town that are supposedly voted in running my town, and also the town administrator at that time, gave us the same answers, then I'm trying to figure out then who is running the town then at that time, if they're telling me, but no other answer to it, just that there's nothing I can do about it. So they weren't talking together, because as soon as you went to the next selectman, it was the same thing. What are you talking about? I never knew that was going on. So it never really got through the grapevine at all. So now it's continued now on for a long period of time where we are just getting bombarded. There's no 4 rooms in my house are lit up. You don't even have to put a light on, so half the neighborhood. They have lights that shine not directly onto the field. They have lights that shine all up. Bradley Road is lit up. If you go drive by there in the wintertime and look over at the fields, you're pretty much blinded, because they want to light up the extra grass fields around. So at night sometimes we have up to 100 kids out there at 10 o'clock at night screaming, because they're using the extra fields, which are, one of these fields are about 8 feet off a property line. Now, if you indulge into it a little bit more and you go into what they do now and you have no break at all, what people don't understand is when it comes to the wintertime, they snow blow the field. So the field's on constant. Now, with no leaves on the trees or nothing like that, you have a snow packed down. It's absolutely amazing. And it's incredible how much light. Now, I've talked to two of the people who are the mouthpieces for the college, who is Sue Panini and Bob O'Connell, and they run some meetings up there, which I know Anne Marie has come to a few times, and it's pretty much the same thing. It's a smoke screen they pull up just to get by. And as the town has definitely turned a blind eye to this, there's no question about it. The rules now that we're going to put in, that we went through the warrant committee and also went to town meeting to put in some articles for us, all these articles went in, but they weren't going to affect us. They're trying to say now, the town is trying to tell us now that these are grandfathered in. So we've been yelling about them since 2004, and the town has done nothing to protect us, nothing at all to protect us at all. Turned a blind eye, there's no question about it. Disgusting, actually, in my thing, since I'm born and raised here. And my whole family was born and raised here. That it's outrageous that what we have to go through. When it comes down to Curry College now, they're constantly renting the fields out for outside activities too. So they're getting money. This so-called nonprofit is pretty much commercializing their fields. In the summertime, you have a Nike sports camp that's there. That's 300 to 500 kids per week, starting at 7:30 in the morning and ending at 9 o'clock at night, every day, 7 days a week, the month of August and July. And all that money goes into their pocket. They bring in AAU baseball teams. They bring in all sorts of different things to run on their field anytime they want to. They use the field, and sometimes even when the field's not being used, the lights are still on. So you call up the college and ask them, how come you can't shut those lights off? You know, well, they're all on a timer. So whatever convenient for them is what really goes on down there. Now, talking to them before, there's at least 5 or 6 neighbors that have been looked at by the Curry College and said, we can do what we want to do. And that continues on to this day. Even though this was brought up in the warrant and bring in town meeting, they have not changed their way in one iota. They've made it worse. The noise they use the PA system for blasting music. Now, at the beginning, for the first 5 years, they would come down onto the field. Now, the kids run the show down there. There's nobody in charge of that. The kids come down, they'd run up to the top of the stands, go into the press box, crank up the music, come down and sit on the field for 2 hours or an hour and a half before the even practice started, just to listen to that. Now, if I'm inside my house and I'm listening to that music, that's not right. If I'm inside my house and I have light shining in 4 rooms of my house, like other neighbors do, that's not right either. And as I said, the town has really been pretty much just despicable as far as we're concerned about not doing anything about this whatsoever. If you look, there's nothing on any plans. There was no height restrictions for the poles that went up. There was no overlay of that. The town didn't say, okay, you can have that after the 35-foot limit. No, they have 2 cellular towers on the campus now. They're also put up under some shady circumstances. They showed a rendition of a pole going up with tree branches and supposed to fit right into the community. And after the pole was starting to be brought up, OSHA supposedly came in and told them it wasn't really safe. So the pole still went up. So now we look at this 80, that's got to be a couple of 100 feet tall at least, that stares down at us. And of course, they're making a pretty good living off of those poles too, as they give $50,000 to the town. They use Atherton Street, which is a dead-end street, which was cut off years ago when the college bought the property afterwards and bought the houses that are on Atherton Street, which I can still name the people that live there. And they had put a fire gate in. Now, anytime Curry has anything that's overloaded onto their campus, they open up that fire gate and they use Atherton Street as their exit, which I don't think is correct either. You know, the Curry College doesn't own Atherton Street, as far as I know. Not yet, anyway. Oh, they're trying, I'm sure. But as I said, now these articles going in, and I know they've been kiboshed, but the articles in, without question, within the first 5 minutes of you guys being up at my house that day, that it was already told that, oh no, everything down here now is grandfathered in. I don't know how the town can sit there and look at us and say anything is grandfathered in, when they're the ones that have let this go on and go on and go on. I mean, it's incredible that this is still going on at this time. You can't do anything. You can't sit out in your back of your house. You can't do anything. The last 3 years of my mother's life, she couldn't even sit on her back porch because she was blasted out of her house. Even though you called the college and asked them. The year after she was passed away, we had a memorial. We called the college a week before and asked them if they could not use the music that night because we were going to have a service at the house. Blew us right out. Had to stop the service, the whole thing. Just disrespectful. They don't care because they know they're in cahoots. Somebody up here is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, is protecting the neighborhood. And that neighborhood has just been now just totally debauched because of this. I mean, it's unbelievable. And they have no respect for anybody up there. They look at some of the neighbors and just say, we can do what we want to do, because they know nothing's going to happen to them because the town's protecting them. There's no question about it in anybody's mind that lives up in that area.
Well, I thank you for bringing this to our attention. Typically, we hold our comments to the end, and just as an FYI. But I think having been in the business of overseeing fields and stuff, I'd like to see what their policy is and see what type of efforts they could potentially make. I know lighting can be changed, where it can be put into certain areas where it doesn't affect outlying areas, and especially with noise. And hopefully have some conversations or future conversations with Curry related to some noise reduction in certain time frames that work for the neighborhood. So I think that's would be a good start for us.
Well, I mean, they claim that they've changed the light systems and things like that, and they haven't. They haven't touched them. They haven't touched them. And when they do say they touched them, it's in the middle, like when there's pure foliage on the trees. So you might get a little break right now, but now a month from now, when everything's off, it's incredible. Right now, it's blazing right now, when I just left my house right now, and there's not one soul on that field. It's empty. But we're still looking at those lights. Now, my house is approximately, let's say, 50 feet above the field, and those lights are shining in my window. So if I'm 50 feet above that field, those lights aren't shining onto the field, they're shining out. I have an 83-foot pine tree next to my house. The top of that pine tree is all lit up. Bradley Road is all lit up. Athens Street is all lit up. I mean, it's get to a point where, you're sitting there paying your taxes and you can't even use your own house.
That's understood. No, it's definitely understood, and I appreciate you bringing that to us.
This Dover amendment doesn't cover them for all this stuff they're trying. The town says, well, you got to do this. It's baloney. It's pure baloney. He's being protected. The new president of the college, who's been there for a little while now, has got some. I had to call Anne Marie the other night. I called and left a message because on Athens Street there's a woman that lives down the end. So I make sure she's okay. She's all by herself. And some of the football games, they come down and use the street to park. And there's no parking signs, and they've been up there for a long time for that reason. Now, she couldn't even get out of her own house the last football game because they had blocked her driveway.
Right, and that's not right. So I think there's more, as David said, there's more we can follow up on, Pat.
I mean, there's got to be something done here. And the music, they were just talking about the music. They changed the speaker system supposedly to help us. So they took out 2 small bullhorns that they had on the side of their press box and put in 5 suitcase-size speakers, where 2 of them actually sit on poles and face right at us. But they're telling us that, oh, no, we'll be able to take care of this.
Well, I think you brought up some valid points and stuff that we're going to have to discuss, and that we want to discuss on behalf of the neighborhood as well, and to support you.
Well, as I said, the
Yeah,
main thing
I'll hold up
about
my comments until we have responses to citizen statement. But I do have some thoughts on it.
Chairman Hurley said that he does have some thoughts, and obviously we typically wait till the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
To respond on these, and so he'll probably respond at the end of the meeting. He has some ideas.
Okay, I'll be listening.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
Pat. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Pat.
it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Phil Johanning, 23 Parkwood Drive. I listened to the comments after last week or 2 weeks ago when I was here to talk about airplanes, and I just came to the conclusion that perhaps a little information was needed to better understand the situation that we have with airplanes. And the first page that I'm showing are complaints by town year to date. And you'll notice that the highest number of complaints is from Milton, 1,573 complaints year to date. So what I'm trying to say is this is not a problem that should not be, let's say, recognized by the town in a more serious fashion. And if you look at the other towns, like Arlington is the only other one that comes close, Somerville, but we're at the top of the list, and that's a serious problem. Anyone would have to recognize that. And so when you, Mr. Burns, said we have to follow our elected officials, that's what I understood you to say. I think that you are our elected official, and we're following you. So we rely on you to actually lead. And I don't know if you saw that Mr. Lynch got up on the floor of the Congress, and he said that he wanted to make an amendment to move $25 million from the FAA budget to rail. And he withdrew his amendment after other congressmen who were on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee offered to help him set up a meeting in Milton to talk about airplanes. So if you want to look at leadership, Mr. Lynch was certainly leading at that moment. Now, we haven't had the meeting, but I feel confident that at some point it's going to occur. But anything that our town officials can do to expedite it would certainly be really helpful. Now, the second page I show is something, these first statistics, by the way, are from Massport. They're on the website. The second page is a page that some of you may recognize from the presentation that Massport did in February of 2013, and it shows historical wind direction. So if you look at east winds, it's 35% of the time, and if you look at west winds, it's 65% of the time. So what is the significance of that? If you look at the next page, it's the percentage of runway use. 4R and 4L are northeast-facing runways. If you add the two together, you see that it's 31.4%. 31.4% of the time, they're using a northeast runway. If you look at northeast wind direction, it's 18% of the time. So obviously, at least in terms of 4R and 4L, we're getting way more than would be appropriate. Now, if you look at the top, it says, for safety, the FAA seeks to operate runways that are aligned with the wind direction. So 18% of the time we get northeast winds, and 31.4% of the time we're using a northeast runway. What is the point of this? The point is that this is systematically unfair to the town of Milton. Almost any time that they have an opportunity to route airplanes, we seem to get them. And I think that this has got to be a big concern. If you look at southeast winds on the historical wind direction, it's 17% of the time. Look at the southeast runway and look at the arrivals, 1.7% of the time. They're getting landings, let's say arrivals, 10% of the time that they should. And if you look at, like I said, when do we get east winds? 35% of the time, 18 plus 17. Yet, we have almost all of the east wind arrivals, let's say. We're getting 31, as I've already pointed out, but we're also taking the southeast wind arrivals too. So someone is getting a break, and those are the communities that are under runway 15 arrival path, let's say. And one of the things that happened was that they say that because of traffic concerns, a single runway is not appropriate in all cases. So what did they do? They built runway 1432 to create a parallel for runway 15. But guess what they did? They made it unidirectional, so nothing can land on runway 14. And if you look at the percentages, you'll see that runway 14 is used 0% of the time for arrivals and 0% of the time for departures. And runway 32 is used 1.1% of the time and 0% of the time. So we spent, I guess I can say, we as a Commonwealth spent $150 million to build this runway, which was supported by the Milton Selectmen to give a parallel to 15 to relieve us when we had a southeast wind. And what happened? They don't use it. It was declared to be unidirectional, and they don't use it. So, we've got, again, a systematic unfairness. But one of the other things that I want to mention is the fact that, people talk about what should be our priorities in fighting, let's say, these airplanes. And if you look at the next page with raw numbers of flights, you can see that year-to-date through August, I, in my house, have had 28,386 airplanes fly over my house. Why? Because I live under the center line of 4R. So within 1.5 miles to the right or to the left, all the airplanes are funneling right over my house. You know, I live in a neighborhood that should be like the country, but with 28,386 airplanes passing over my house, and when I get 41% of the arrivals, it's not very country. So like I said last meeting, this is threatening property values in our town, and we must take really serious action to protect the town. The last page I wanted to show you was the next one, and this is another one of the things that looks and smells to me like shenanigans. What this is runway 27. It's westward departures, let's say. And if you follow the line straight, like I don't understand why the heading can't be straight. Like when airplanes are flying to 4R and 4L, they're heading on a straight heading. But if you look at runway 27, they make a left turn over Fan Pier. So instead of going on a straight heading through Brookline, through Newton, through Wellesley, they make a left turn and they fly through Milton, you know? So you have to wonder, why was it decided to turn the aircraft to the southwest at Fan Pier rather than allowing them to go on a straight heading over Brookline, Newton, and Wellesley? And by the way, if you look at the complaints from Brookline on this thing, there are 5 complaints from Brookline in the entire year. If you look at Newton, you can see that there are 12 in the entire year. If you look at Wellesley, it's not even on the list. So what's happening? Like Robert Kraft and Tom Brady live in Brookline, and in Milton, we're looking for condominiums to repurpose our great houses. So, you know, people aren't going to come to Milton to live in a great house. They're going to go to Brookline where it's nice and quiet. You know, it's not a consideration if you have tons of money to spend. This may not be your destination, and it's all because people in Brookline fought vigorously and went to court. The case is called Runway 27 Coalition versus Engen. Engen was the head of the FAA at the time, and they stopped Runway 27 from coming over their town. So it's vigorous, it's vigorous fighting. And so the thing I want to say is that, what do I think we should do? Now that Bland's Phase 3 is coming to an end, I think it's bad news for our town. It's even going to be worse. And what do I think might be something that we could do? I think that a meeting has to be arranged with certain neighborhoods in Boston, like Hyde Park, like Roslindale, those neighborhoods, their city councilors, the city councilors in Quincy, the selectmen from Milton, the selectmen from Canton, the selectmen from Randolph, get together at a meeting and invite Massport to present Bland's Phase 3 and its potential impact on Milton and surrounding towns. I think we have to actively engage them in demonstrating the fairness or lack of fairness that's going on here. And I think, if you draw a donut around Logan Airport, it might be interesting to see how many flights arrive and depart over the northwest quadrant, how many over the northeast quadrant, so that we can see how many are affecting Milton, Randolph, Canton, and Hyde Park, et cetera, in Boston. I think it might be interesting to have Senator Joyce, Dan Cullinane, and Walter Tamilty all participating in the meeting so that they can see how fair the results of Bland's 3 will be. I think even a representative from Representative Lynch's office might be interesting. Just to listen and observe what exactly is coming out of this, what is expected to come out of this in terms of a result for, you know, we can always go to court and fight them, but court is unpredictable and court is expensive. So, you know, meeting it head on and asking people to show us as a town and our surrounding towns what is going to be the impact of Bland's 3, what is expected. And I think Jose Masso, the Director of Community Relations for Massport, might be contacted to see whether he would be interested in presenting what is expected to come out of Bland's Phase 3. The other thing that I think is important to wrap up is I think we have to fully support the efforts of Cindy Christensen. Why? Because this is not going to end well for Milton if Milton wants to be friendly and sweet, and because we've been that way for many years, and look what we've got. You know, we've got a really bad situation, and it's getting worse. I think we really need to consider, like, seriously, a person like Cindy who's a street fighter. We need a street fighter. We need somebody going hand-to-hand combat through the streets, you know, challenging, how did they come up with the assumptions for Bland's Phase 3? How did they come up with the basic plans? You know, obviously, the people on the CAC are not going to like this. And obviously people in power are not going to like this. It's because it upsets the status quo. And the status quo, people, if you go to these meetings, people always say, it's a zero-sum game. Yeah, it's a zero-sum game. And you know who's lost? Is Milton. But, you know, if it's a zero-sum game, it seems to me, who loses when Milton wins? Everybody else. So the one thing that nobody wants to do is have Milton win. And so they're going to fight you like crazy.
Well, Mr. Johanning, I really appreciate your comments and your passion, because I think that it's duly noted, and I think that this board stands strong and committed to fighting airplane noise. And we're going to hear from Cindy Christensen later on the Bland's 3, specifically the Bland's 3 report, so we look forward to that. And, but I thank you for your comments tonight.
But I think you need to do more. I think you need to call Massport in, maybe call the president of the CAC in, let them present it to you. Let them show you and describe for you what is intended. That's important. You know, Cindy can go to meetings and Cindy can be a street fighter, but without the support of the selectmen and the town administrator, we are not going to be successful. This is a street fight. This is a war. When people lose, they get airplane noise because that's the way it is. And we've lost. Now we want to win. So you got to fight. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers? I'm going to respectfully ask for 3 minutes now, because we have a full agenda tonight. So if we do have another speaker, if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be appreciated.
My name's Mary Ann Baumgartner. I live on Brook Road near St. Agatha's, and 1214. I've never been to a meeting like this. I don't like speaking in public, so I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm just going to read my statement, and I thank Mr. Johanning for making his comments. I've lived in Milton in the same house all of my life, which is, I'm in my late 50s, let's put it that way. The house was built by my grandparents back in 1940, and my family is very much bothered by airplane noise. It was already bad back in the 1990s. But there's no comparison to what's happened to 2010 and later. We have an airplane highway, super highway, over our house with a plane roaring by every 20 seconds in peak times. I've timed it. My husband has sleeping problems. I've never had to take any pills or medication, but I'm very anxious, particularly over this last, I'd say June, July, and August, when I know that's when we're getting most of the planes over 4R and 4L. I love Milton, and the point is, it's ironic because Milton's very advantageous, close to the city, close to the sea, close to the mountains. You know, we're 8 miles from Boston. It's our disadvantage as well. But I don't want to sell my house. I've lived here all my life. As I said, my grandparents built it. But if the airplane noise doesn't get better, I'm really going to have to think of selling up. And I was actually looking in open houses at other towns on the South Shore. So I really ask you to please take the issue of airplane noise in Milton very seriously. And please don't think it's just a small group of us, you know, complainers. I don't complain. I never complain about anything, but I just finally said I had to come and say something this evening. Please make it one of your #1 priorities. And it's such a beautiful community, you know, and it's just very upsetting. And thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got to hold applause. I think we should hold applause.
If people wouldn't mind in the audience just holding applause for the rest of the meeting, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Betsy Crowley, and I live on 22 Lawndale Road. And I've lived here for 9 years, and I've loved living in this town. This town has been great for my family. I have 3 kids, almost 9, 7 and 5, and we love it here, and I don't want to move. I'm at a point with the planes where we were thinking about doing a renovation and staying for the rest of our lives. And now I don't know. And it breaks my heart. So I beg you to do something about it, because I don't want to leave this town. And I just have to tell you, I get emotional, but I love this town. I love it more than I love the town that I grew up in. And I had an incident last fall where my son ran into the road. We don't live on a very busy road, and a lot of the kids play in the street. But my son ran into the road, and I yelled for him to stop. And he didn't hear me because there was a plane overhead. He could not hear me. It's not only affecting our quality of life, it's affecting the children's safety when they can't hear their mother tell them to stop. I'm not exaggerating. This is a really big issue. They fly right over our rooftops. Now, we love living near the airport because my husband travels. So if he has to catch a plane, he can spend more time at home. But 9 years ago, there wasn't a plane every 20 seconds over our house. It's getting ridiculous. And I do not want to leave. But I'm seriously considering leaving this town and moving to Needham, where they don't get hardly any planes flying over their neighborhoods. And I can get all the same benefits of living close to Boston there, but I don't want to leave. I have my friends, my family is close by. I don't want to go. And I don't want to be forced to make that decision. And I'm asking you to do something about it. Be our voice. Work for us. We need you. That's it.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Betsy.
Hi, I'm Donna Swanson. I live at 303 Hillside Street, and we're really affected by the airplane noise as well. I agree, it's almost every 20 seconds. For instance, on Friday nights, which is usually a problem, we leave. We don't even spend any time in our backyard because you can't hear each other think. It's not enjoyable. So, and the other day we were taking a walk around our neighborhood, and there was no wind. The weather was beautiful. It was a clear blue sky, and the planes were just coming over every almost 10, 15 seconds. And so it has nothing to do with the wind or the weather. You know, they say that you have to use it because it's the way the plane has to land in a certain wind. Well, that wasn't the case. So I don't know what, they're telling us this at Massport, and I complain, I call all the time, and I also will call when I don't hear a plane. I'll call and I'll say thank you, because, you know, it's been a day, you know, several hours, and I can sit in my backyard and enjoy it. But, so when they say that, I don't think that's true. And I have to agree with this gentleman that I feel like we get, I know we get from his stats, the majority of the planes, and I don't think the other towns do. And I think he's absolutely right. I think it's because it's Brookline, Newton, and Wellesley, and whoever's there has a little bit more power than we do in Milton. I don't think it's fair. And I have to agree with this woman, because we're ready to sell our house as well, because it's just unpleasant. So I would like you to do anything you can. We've called Senator Joyce's office, not Senator Joyce.
Congressman Lynch?
Yeah, excuse me, several times, and nothing's happened. I mean, we get like, oh, we're trying to get a meeting with the FAA. Like, trying? I mean, why aren't you getting one? Like, why is that such a big deal? So it's frustrating, and I don't think he's doing enough for us, and I hate to say it, I don't think you're doing enough for us. So we spend a lot of money on our taxes, and would like something done. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Megan Raftery, 16 Lawndale Road. I've been a Milton resident for about 2.5 years. I moved from Dorchester and obviously moved to Milton because it was supposed to be a great community. And I'm regretting my move because the other night I came home on the highway and I could see the lights lined up above my house in East Milton Square. And I looked at my old house in Dorchester and there's not one light over that with the planes. And it's really upsetting. My son can't sleep. He can't go to sleep at night. His room is in the front of the house, and that's where all the noise comes in. And he's up until about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night trying to fall asleep. The windows are closed. The fans are on. I'm trying white noise. Nothing. It's disrupting our whole household. And I think, as everyone else has said, I think there needs to be a stronger fight. There really does. We need to fight it. And there's a lot of people here tonight, but there's a lot of people that couldn't come. And everybody is concerned. But I think that as citizens, we don't know what to do, and we need you to do it for us. I mean, I call Massport, I look at my log of how many calls I've made. We just don't know exactly what we're supposed to do as citizens, but we need you to do it for us, and we need you to fight. Because I'm serious, I'm ready to move back to Boston. I love Boston. I came to Milton kicking and screaming. And I loved it. When I moved, I loved it. Now, I'm not loving it so much. I'm only a mile away from Dorchester, and there's no planes over my old house. So, thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Hello, my name is Sebastian Barbagala. I live on 27 Otis Street, Milton. I've been there for 1 year, moved from Quincy, spent a considerable amount of money to move there. Had I known this plane issue is what it is, there's no way I would have moved to Milton, knowing and spent the money that we spend, pay the taxes that we pay, and to get this kind of treatment from the FAA and to have this sort of inaction from the town. I have been logging and tracking online the planes. The last week on 3 consecutive mornings, there were 20 planes between 5:30 and 6 a.m. flying over our house. That's 3 days in a row. Those 3 days, they started at 5:30 a.m. They don't stop till after 11 o'clock, after midnight. I realize that we are in a urban area, that we're going to have planes. We're so close, but there needs to be more fight from the town of Milton to get our number reduced and also set guidelines as to when these planes can fly over our heads. It's not just the number of planes, it's when they're coming. They're waking us up, they're preventing us from sleeping. It's very, very bad for the quality of life. My wife and I are expecting our first child in December, and I don't know how that's going to work with getting a baby to sleep in the middle of the night with these planes flying overhead. I've been to several of the ANAC committee meetings that the town has commissioned, starting back in May. I actually tried to join the committee, but I was told it was full. It has supposedly 9 or 11 members. Every time I come to a meeting, there's only 5 present or so. I don't know what the other committee members are doing. Since May to September, it seemed that there's the same conversations. That seems to be, they're arguing about what's being posted on Facebook by Cindy Christensen's group. She's the only one, I think, in this whole town that's doing anything about the airplane noise. I think the town needs to rally around her instead of trying to nitpick what she's posting on Facebook. They don't have any power. They can't even put an ad in the Milton Times to get a retired pilot to help with the issue. I think the town really needs to get some legal representation here. There's been a lawyer that has reached out, that Cindy's group has reached out to, and is waiting for us to take action, and there seems to be no action from the town to go ahead and, jump at this opportunity. It's going to be one hell of a fight, like this gentleman said, and it's only going to get harder the longer that we wait. We need to hit it head on, and before it's really starting to affect our property value. I think everyone right now is sitting fat and happy, seeing how high houses are selling for, but once this starts to get out in the town, into the world that Milton's an airplane town, we're going to see it all crash. I'm trying to sell another house I have over in another side of Milton. And the first question everyone asks at open house is, oh, is this under a flight path? People are getting to know this around the city and around the state, that Milton is becoming a flight town. And once it gets to be more popular out there, then you're going to see all of our property values crash. This is one of the #1 issues I think our town is facing right now. And I think there needs to be more action, any action from the Board of Selectmen to get some resolution to this, or at least start the fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We don't normally respond during citizen speak. I am going to mention, I do want to address some of the comments later on. It is not true that there has been inaction by the town. There may be disagreement on certain actions, but there has been action on behalf of the town, and we're happy to address that at a later date, but we appreciate everyone's comments tonight.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Mary Ryan. I live at 132 Otis Street in Milton. And I really don't have anything new to add from all of the other comments of my neighbors, other than to just voice my own discontent and outrage at the situation and how increasingly bad it has become. The planes don't start at 5:30 in the morning. The planes are often going at 4 in the morning, and they haven't stopped till well after midnight. It's incredibly outrageous. It's affecting people's health, their sleep, their livelihoods, their ability to work and function during the day. And I would just urge people to act on our behalf, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catherine Donahue. I live at 432 Pleasant Street. My house has a bullseye on the roof because every plane goes directly over it. I have collected much data because I lie awake at night with my phone, and every time the plane goes over, I put the time down. But here's something I would really like you to give us information about. I am deeply concerned about my lungs. And the reason I'm concerned is I'm actually replacing windows on my house right now, specifically to knock the noise out. But when I put my finger across my windowsill in the back of my house where there's no construction, there's no work on the street, it's black. So if it's black on the back of my house, where is that coming from? And my concern is what is happening to my lungs for the last 20 years that I've been breathing, 400 to 500 jets over my house where I can almost see people in the windows. I'm tempted to wave sometimes, but I'm looking at the belly of the plane. So if the plane is that low, something is falling out of it. And a few times I was at Marina Bay and I looked back at the planes coming in and there's black underneath them. That's falling on my house. And if I have 300, sometimes 400 planes a day, I am very concerned about my lungs, and I think everyone in this town should be concerned. Lung cancer will not appear immediately, and you know how it's going to be tracked, should we, several of us here, get that, or non-smokers, but I am really concerned about what is falling on my house. We had a rainstorm, you know, about a month ago, a very heavy rainstorm. My car was filthy. And I thought, where is the dirt coming from in the trees that's then falling on my car? The only thing that's flying over the trees is a plane, and I mean hundreds of them. So my concern is beyond the noise, and I get that the issue here is the noise. My concern is, what is this doing to our health? Never mind the sleep that we're not getting, that's affecting our health in many ways. But what dirt is falling from those planes, several hundred planes a day, as you've heard from people? What is that doing to my lungs? It's got to be going in there. I don't have air conditioning in my house, so I am getting all of this air. So anyway, I have major health concerns beyond the noise. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Weld, and I live at 267 Adams Street in Milton, and I complain to Massport a lot. I've had a few conversations with Cindy Christensen, and she's sort of kept me aware of what's going on. But one of the things I want to follow up on with the previous speaker is something Cindy told me about how Massport made a contribution to Children's Hospital because of acknowledging that, in fact, in East Boston, I think it was, there were a high number of cases of children having breathing difficulty. And I think we should learn from that lesson and not let it happen to us. I've been complaining to Massport a number of times. I look back on the first response I got, which said, you know, of course you're under runway 4L, 4R, and it's because of the direction of the wind that these planes are coming in this direction. And then it said the wind shifted at 12:01 a.m. And any number of times I've stayed awake, and there must be a shift change at Massport at midnight, because that will be when the planes stop. So I do not give up on complaining to Massport. Occasionally, I think it gets a response. If we have several days of planes overhead from 5 until midnight, I'll call up and I'll say, well, wasn't there supposed to be, I think it's the test 2, where the time periods were shorter and we weren't going to get 18 hours of planes overhead. And it seems like there's a response. I may be fantasizing about that. But I have been also collecting articles of what I think is Massport's charm offensive. And one of them is just recently there was a dog park in East Boston, and at the end of the article it says, Tom Glynn from Massport financed this, and everybody said, oh, isn't this great? But the big one that got my eye was an editorial with this very compelling picture. And in fact, this tells the story of how an Olmsted Park and neighborhood were destroyed because of the noise from the airplanes. And Massport just recently went in and hired a landscape firm to do a new design for the residential area, for to, I guess, commemorate all of the residential buildings that were lost. So I look at other examples from, I think of Massport's, as I call it, charm offensive, saying, you know, how great we are, that more and more people are coming here, and it's almost weekly that we'll see in the newspaper another airline has a direct route from Singapore, Jerusalem to Boston. So the notion that, yes, this is great for Boston and great for Massport is being put out in the newspapers all the time. I think the disturbing part is that the benefit is to the airlines. and the cost is to us. So all of the things about how the next-gen GPS system works to increase efficiency and safety for the airlines is in fact to their benefit and to our cost, because we're living with the noise from the focused, the concentrated flight paths. I still, when I complain, I still get letters that say, oh yeah, the wind shifted at 12:01 a.m. Last time I complained, I said, you know, I'm a little skeptical about what you're saying about the arrivals needing to be coordinated with the wind direction. I think that's acknowledged that that's just a bunch of baloney. But they continue to use that as a response when I ask for a written response. The last thing I want to say is that I don't think this has to be inevitable. I don't think we have to think we're fighting the FAA and the FAA is so powerful and Logan is so important to Boston. I don't believe that's inevitable. And I take great heart from Jane Jacobs, who took on Robert Moses in the 1960s when he proposed a freeway into the southern part of New York City, which would have wiped out Greenwich Village. She started as one individual who was concerned about this, who said, you know, Greenwich Village is a great residential area, and just because Robert Moses is a very powerful mayor and has political connections to get the money to build a freeway into Manhattan, we don't have to live with that. We don't have to believe that. We don't have to accept that. So starting as one individual, she engaged enough community support to fight Robert Moses. And if you're interested in interesting biographies, and in fact learning about Robert Moses, it was just, you know, I'm powerful, I'm going to do what I want. But the long-term, Jane Jacobs became an icon. She became a hero because of her stand. It was one person with a baby carriage saying, this is going to completely destroy my neighborhood. My neighborhood's going to be gone. And we've learned the lesson from the West Side in Boston, from the urban renewal, where that entire area was bulldozed by the federal government. You know, that's something that we now know was a big mistake. So we now know that this kind of concentrated or focused flight path is a big mistake for Milton. And I don't think we have to accept that the FAA is going to do it, and that Logan is hell-bent on the benefits to bringing more flights into Boston. The concern I have, if you read about NextGen and the GPS, is that it allows flights to come in more closely spaced. So if we're getting 35% of the flights, and let's say that's, I'm just going to say 2,000 flights, and perhaps Massport would say, well, we're going to keep it at 35%, but that 35% in absolute numbers has the potential to increase because of what NextGen can do. But I want to end by saying we don't have to accept this, but we do have to do something about it. We have to be the Jane Jacobs of the 21st century and make one voice turn into many.
Thank you very much.
Linda.
Anybody else for citizen speak?
It's not related to airplanes.
Maggie?
Hi,
Maggie, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Hi, I'm Maggie Oldfield of 237 Hillside Street, Intel meeting member from Precinct 9. With everything going on and in the spirit of cooperation, I sent Anne Marie an email informing her of the date of our 12th annual holiday boutique. In return, I received the following letter from Joe Prondak, the building inspector, dated 9/22/15. Dear Maggie, in response to your request submitted to Town Administrator Anne Marie Fagan, I offer the following. Only products for retail sale, which are directly incidental to the permitted nursery use at 270 Hillside Street, can be offered for sale at any holiday fair or other similar event. Products including, but not limited to, arts, clothing, ceramics, jewelry, housewares, candles, soaps, and carvings are not allowed to be sold at 270 Hillside Street, Thayer Nursery. I hope this provides some clarity as you plan your event. You do have the right to appeal this decision at the Zoning Board of Appeals. Sincerely, Joe Prondak. So when I received this letter, lots of thoughts went through my head. But mostly I thought back to the beginning, 12 years ago, when my daughter Chandler was 2 and my son George was not quite 1. I wanted to do something to celebrate the Christmas season with them. As a lifelong resident of Milton and now a working mom, I wanted to do something that was fun and relatively local. I had limited time and wanted to take a picture for my Christmas card. Where can I go to get a picture of the kids with Santa, I thought. The only places I knew was at either the Plaza, which did not seem very authentic, or into Boston to Santa's Village, which seemed at that time an overwhelming task with such young kids. So we came up with the idea of hosting a community event that Santa could come to and families could make part of their own Christmas custom. Our festival has been a Milton tradition for almost 12 years now. It has even been voted by the readers of the Milton Times as the best community event. We provide a venue for talented local craftspeople that do not have a brick and mortar storefront to showcase their creations. The age of artisans has ranged from 8 years old to 80, and at each table is an individual that has put a lot of energy and passion into their work. Behind every object is a story of how it came to be. This event affords the artisan and the consumer the opportunity to connect and to chat about each handcrafted item. While attendants listen to festive music sung by the Milton High School Chorus or singers from the Boston School of Music, families have the opportunity to snap their photos for their cards in front of a roaring fire pit or alongside Massachusetts-grown Christmas trees or with Santa and his friends, especially the fan favorite, the Grinch. While we play host to over 25 local artisans, we give away approximately 750 hot dogs, countless cups of hot chocolate, and dozens of cookies free of charge. And in return, our generous guests donate to our cause of choice. Through their generosity, we were able to present the American Legion with over $500 last year. And in years past, we have made similar donations to the Milton Music Department and the Milton Food Pantry. I am very proud and humbled to be part of such a generous and caring community. Along with the Gardens Club's green sale and the Boy Scout resale, our festival has become a great way for our town to kick off and celebrate locally the first weekend in December. The nursery is so much more than just a landscaping company or a garden center. It is a hub for our community, bringing much of our varied demographic together. We support local artisans and even promote other smaller businesses who are just trying to make it. I'm so fortunate to have the opportunity to meet and personally connect with so many creative, intelligent, and very funny townspeople. We do our best to transform the nursery into a winter wonderland, and each year we strive to improve this fun-filled experience. We really try to be a good member of our neighborhood and our community. I wonder why now this has become an issue. What happens to all the other fairs and festivals in town? Will a jazz band no longer be allowed to perform on town corners? Will the food trucks and artists not be able to go to the fireworks event at Hutchinson Field? What harm did this event ever bring? Taking this away would epitomize the sentiment that the town of Milton is anti-business. And to me, this pure, feel-good, free event feels like a punishment against me personally, but it really is a punishment to the whole town. I would like to know the real reason and the basis for this denial. Perhaps you may know of a solution so we do not have to cancel our festival. And the bigger question that I have for you, the selectmen, is this the type of community you are trying to create and striving to lead? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie.
Is that it for citizen speak? Okay, we're going to move along to item 6 on the agenda. It's the open and close of the October 2015 special town meeting warrant. As the planning board has withdrawn all but 2 proposed articles from the October 2015 special meeting warrant, it will be open for the purpose of withdrawing those articles and closed again.
Then I will move that we open, well, actually, we're going to have a revised motion on this, right? Okay, so I'll move that we reopen the October 2015 town meeting warrant and withdraw the following planning board articles: the bed and breakfast bylaw, inclusionary zoning bylaw, the lighting bylaw, the mixed-use condominium zoning, non-conforming business use zoning, and the sign bylaw.
And I'll second that. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes.
And I will now move that we close the October 2015 town meeting warrant.
And I will second that. Ms. Hurley?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay. Item 7 on the agenda. We have Ted Hayes, our warrant committee chair, coming up to talk about our warrant articles.
Good evening, Ted.
Good evening, Ted.
Hi, Ted.
Chairman Tom.
Thank you for waiting, Ted.
Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. So, the warrant is going to go to the printer tomorrow, and I think it's in pretty good shape. We have but 8 articles, and I don't know if you want me to describe them for you or the public, but we have, the first 2 are related to the passage last spring of the so-called Strong Town Administrator article, and these are articles to align the language of our own bylaw with the Strong Town Administrator article, and also a petition to the General Court to align the language of a special act they passed in 1989, so that will conform to our new town administrator bylaw. So those are I think will be fairly easily dispatched. Then we have 3 articles of a fiscal housekeeping nature, and they involve rescinding bond authorizations for monies that will not be spent for one reason or the other. I don't know if you want the details, but we had one of the bonds being well, 2 of the bonds being authorized and being rescinded have to do with medical expenses for our firefighter, and we were able to replace those authorized amounts with $1 million of free cash 2 years ago and a grant from the state of $300,000. And so this is nice to take that authorization off the books. Also, there was we're talking about the East Milton deck later on. There was a $300,000 authorization for a bond on that, which was never intended to be spent, but we needed to authorize the appropriation at the same time in order to spend the state grant that Senator Joyce obtained for us.
Yeah, well, I think what happened at the time, Ted, is that grant was not assured. It was something promised by Senator Joyce, but I don't think he, at that point in town meeting, because he got up in town meeting floor and said he would, I believe, try and get a grant, which he finally did, thank goodness. So I think that's why that bond authorization stayed there, ultimately.
I'm not sure I caught every word, Tom, but basically, the $300,000 can be rescinded because we got the state grant.
It can be rescinded, yes. Yeah. It's just why it was there originally was because Senator Joyce got up in town meeting floor, and at that point he did not have the grant in hand. So we still had to have a bond authorization just in case the grant didn't come through.
Right, it was a question of timing then.
Yes, exactly.
At any rate, we're also happy to take that $300,000 off the books. The largest bond authorization that we're rescinding is the from the $6,200,000 bond that was authorized for the wind turbine project. Some of that was issued, $1,350,000, and some of that $1,350,000 was spent, but not all of it. $363,000 was unspent, and that is being repurposed to previously authorized projects from last Springtown meeting and actually a little bit from 2 Springtown meetings ago, 2013 actually. So that helps get another $5 million off of our credit card, you might say, to clear up some room for anything we might want to do in the future. And so that's healthy. So the next, after rescinding the wind turbine bond and repurposing that money, that's Article 3. Article 4 is repurposing or rescinding the medical expense and East Milton deck money. Article 5 repurposes not only the $363,000 available from the wind turbine issue, but also about $180,000 in a miscellaneous collection of unspent but authorized and issued bonds. And these are the savings from projects that had been authorized in the past, and the estimates came in lower, and most of the reason for that is the diligence of the town department heads that oversaw those projects. And so I just want to mention Director of Consolidated Facilities Bill Ritchie, Director of Parks and Recreation David Pert, Susan Galvin, the Town Treasurer, and I know I'm missing somebody here because there were 4. So that's...
I think the treasurer might have been the other one.
Yep.
Susan, the town clerk.
Susan, the town clerk, David. Oh, Joe Lynch.
Joe Lynch,
of course.
DPW.
Sorry, DPW. Thank you. And really, we have them to thank for achieving efficiencies in getting those projects done. And we were able to repurpose that 180 along with the 363 from the wind turbine project to all the projects that were authorized for capital expenditures in last spring's town meeting. I think it was Article 5. Anyway. So those will be pretty easy to deal with. Article 6 is the proposal to change the Board of Selectmen from 3 members to 5 members that was put forward by the Town Government Study Committee. And I don't know, I mean, I get into a little bit in the warrant report, but basically there were two issues with this article as proposed by the Town Government Study Committee, and one was timing. There was some feeling that it was coming too quickly on the heels of the town administrator's article last spring, and that the fallout from that needed to be dealt with before a new change to the makeup of town government. And that was we think that was accommodated with the insertion of a clause in the article to postpone any change in the Board of Selectmen until the spring of 2017, so that will allow some time for repercussions of the new town administrator article to get worked through. The other issue was whether or not town meeting should take the decision on this, or if it should go to the town as a whole for a vote, town ballot vote. And a lot of people felt that, well, town meeting is an informed body of volunteers and elected by their precincts to represent them, and why shouldn't they take the vote? And other people felt that this was a change of structure in their own town government, and it should go to them. And then discovered that the town charter mandated a townwide vote. So that kind of got rid of that, took care of that debate, and so
You should say, Ted, you were the one who discovered that, so we're
well,
grateful to you for finding that. It would have eliminated, I think, a lot of dialogue if that had been discovered early on in the process at some level.
Well, I wish it had been discovered
congratulations
earlier.
for finding that.
Thank you. I just got lucky. You know, sometimes the
it's good
blind
you were
squirrel
lucky.
finds the nut. You know, I mean, it's just, it happens.
And as you know, our board was very strongly in favor of going to the voters, so we're delighted you found that for us.
Well, I think based on discovering that mandate of the charter, that we can almost guarantee we're going to have a one-night town meeting. Although, never saying that.
Well, probably
So-
because the next two are not, unfortunately.
The next two
a lot of discussion.
yeah. The next two articles did survive the planning board process and were put through to the warrant committee. Recommendations from the planning board. The first one involved a proposal for a bylaw for amplified music. And it had, the original concept for this bylaw was a change in the zoning law, because that's the natural arena for planning board activities anyway. And also it was inspired perhaps a little bit by the town's master plan, which does call for a bylaw for noise and a bylaw for light as goals that the town should strive for. Anyway, so the original concept for this was to have a change in the zoning bylaw, an amendment to the zoning bylaw. And then the planning board thought about the enforcement of such a bylaw, and realized that most infractions would occur after the building inspector was long gone for the day, and so that perhaps it ought to be a police matter, and so it was proposed that it be added to the police regulations. Now, I like many things about this article. I like the way it was very inventively written. The test of the appropriateness of the volume of music was I thought, brilliant. It's basically if you have neighbors standing on the lot line next to the music and they can't hear each other talk, you have a problem. I think most people would agree with that. And another inventive part about it was really that it put the burden of proof on the user of the music to prove that he was within reasonable limits. But there's a lot of problems with this article. To begin with, the police department was a little surprised that this was going to land on their desk, and they had some questions about enforceability, measurement, penalty for an infraction. So that's a problem. And then another real problem is the legal applicability of a bylaw such as this to all the users of amplified music in town. For instance, institutional users of amplified music, whether it's the the high school, Milton Academy, Curry College, who have you. I like the provision in the article for a limited permit or limited license, I guess issued by the strong town administrator. But there are too many questions left on this to try to advance it to town meeting, in the opinion of the warrant committee. So we felt that it would be best to recommend that some of these issues get hashed out and hope that the planning board will accept its return. So that may not take very long, although I'm sure people will want to talk about issues of noise. Article 8 is an article for, well, it's called non-conforming dimensions. And there is some debate in the planning and zoning community as to whether this proposed article is filling an actual need, or if the bylaws as written are there to fill it. So that's one issue with this article. But the main issue, which kind of knocks it up, we might have been able to work through that in the time between the printing of the warrant and town meeting. But the main issue with this article is that if it's necessary, it's a good idea. It will confer protections and benefits to homeowners in Milton that, that they should have, to afford them the flexibility of upgrading their house, their dwellings, making extensions and alterations within reasonable limits, and being able to get a building permit through a special permit process if they're in this narrow range of well, it might not be so narrow, because there are an awful lot of people who live in lots that are less than 7,500 square feet, which automatically makes them pre-existing non-conforming in the parlance. So there may be a lot of people who could avail themselves of this. Anyway, it allows people to get a building permit through a special permitting process set up by the article, or perhaps Section 4 as it stands in the zoning bylaw, instead of going to the Board of Appeals for a variance, which is a harder thing to do. At any rate, the planning board felt that if this was good for residents of Residence District C, well, maybe it would be good for residents of Residence District B as well. And why not? And the warrant committee felt, well, it may not be as necessary or come up as often for residents of A or AA, but if it does, why shouldn't they be afforded the same protection? So why not expand it to everybody? Problem with that is that in the for the public hearing of these articles, they have to be published. So if you publish an article that says we're looking at residence C, you can't then expand it to other resident districts, B, A, and AA, because that will expand the recommendation for the article beyond the scope of the original article, and it will, if someone from those districts had been concerned, even though this seems like a benefit to them, that they wouldn't have taken notice of the public hearing, because it wouldn't have concerned them, because they weren't in Residence District C. So, on the advice of town council and the advice of, well, the town moderator rules on issues of scope, and he has ruled that the draft recommendation of the warrant committee would be out of scope and therefore could not go forward to a vote. So we thought, okay, this is not, it's really not worth sending forward this very narrow article that would address one, maybe a sizable portion of the population, but not the entire population that might benefit. It wasn't worth putting forth an article that we knew should rightfully be amended itself later. Why not get it right the first time? And at the same time, we can find out if it's covered in some way by the bylaw that already exists and isn't necessary. So we were able to vote that change just in time to send that to the printer. And I'm sure this article might generate a lot of discussion on town meeting floor, but at the moment we're suggesting that it generate discussion later on at some other town meeting. So,
Well,
there you have it.
I want to thank you, Ted, and all the members of the warrant committee for the exceptional effort that you've put into this special town meeting warrant. I think a lot of good thought and work has been put in among many other people, including other boards and committees. So,
Especially the planning board. I know they looked at a lot of different articles, as we talked about when Emily was here last meeting, and I think their process, even though they took on a lot, it was good that they took on this process of having these forums and getting some more public input into the process early. And I think they learned some things from it, and they made a really good effort. And unfortunately, there aren't more articles going forward of a zoning nature, but they got a good start. So they'll be back, and we have plenty more opportunities down the road to consider them.
As I mentioned in the report that'll come out eventually, we're not disappointed in the long run. I mean, in a way, when we saw 10 of them coming down the pike at us, we thought, oh my gosh, we're never going to get this thing out the door, and it'll be 200 pages long. Well, that didn't happen, but we've had our eye on the process this entire summer, and we are grateful that the planning board is really tackling these issues. And I think they ran out of time, not because they didn't start soon enough, but because these things take time. They will take a year and a half, whatever, and they just ran out of time for peer review and a much. I think these articles will require a much deeper and perhaps 2 rounds of public hearings to get them right. And I think that might need to be built into the schedule at some point. But we're not disappointed. They made a great start and laid a great foundation for a lot of important amendments to come down the road.
Yeah, we had discussions with Emily too on this in one of our meetings, and the same phrase, or taking this new initiative on. I think it was a great process, but you're right, she just kind of ran out of time. And I think she has some ideas for next year in terms of how to get it. Because I think we asked the same thing. Is it just the summer and October town meeting, just not enough time to really get the articles there? And she thought she could, but it just has to be planned differently.
Yeah, they're complicated articles too, so
Yeah,
you're probably right, Ted. They will need a couple of public hearings as they revise them and have another public hearing. They're important topics, so I think it was good that they started the effort.
And I'm not sure how this works, but I would think that
there was only one comment that I did have, and that's on the home rule petition for the changing the Chapter 272 of the Act in 1989. At the very bottom of the recommendation, most of our home rule petitions have, something to the effect that, this bill will take effect upon its passage or language like that. This one doesn't seem to have that. I'm just wondering whether it should or not.
Yes, Tom, I got your comment earlier this afternoon on that article, and I will be addressing that lack with town council.
Yeah, okay.
So I hope, I don't know, to tell you the truth, that article looked so simple to me, that I didn't think the recommendation was anything more than a repeat of the article, but.
Yeah, and like I say, usually we do have that at the very bottom of the formal petitions.
Right.
But,
So I will be checking that before we put it in print, and we can vote the change to that recommendation if need be.
okay. And I think the rest of my comments were more editorial than anything else, so, you know, you don't have to go over them now anyways.
Hey, every little bit helps.
I hear you.
Thank you again, Ted.
Thank you, Ted. And
Really
thank
appreciate
the
it.
warrant committee for us.
You bet.
Okay, item 8 on the agenda is a conference with Bill Clark, our planning director, and Howard Stein Hudson, representatives, to discuss the East Milton Deck project with some proposed changes in the layout of the deck to increase green space and lessen noise from traffic.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
On September 9th, we had the 25%, I'm sorry, with me is Bridget Myers from Howard Stein Hudson.
Bridget.
Hi, Bridget.
Bridget is the project manager for the East Milton project. In June of 2011, Howard Stein Hudson completed the East Milton Square parking and access study. One of the locally preferred alternatives was the hybrid plan that we originally had. That was the plan that we brought forward to the September 9th 25% hearing that was run by Mass Department of Transportation. Since that night, we took back a lot of the, Howard Stein Hudson has taken them back. We've had discussions with Mass Highway, Mass Department of Transportation, Federal Highway, and we have an idea that we would like to take and present to the selectmen and take and flip what we presented on the 9th. What we would do is take the green space from the south and take the green space and place it in the north. Take the parking from the north and put it in the south. The issues here become one of the green space would be viewed when you're on Adams Street going either east or west. When you're at that light, you're going to be looking at the park. So you see green space more than you would other times. It also takes and makes a contiguous pathway for the pedestrian straight through, whether it's bike or pedestrian. It does keep the slip ramp in place. It accentuates the police and fire memorials that are out there in the green space that is already here. It helps with the crosswalks a little bit better that they line up on the corners. Like I said, this option has been presented by Howard Stein Hudson back to Mass Highway, Mass Highway's environmental people. It's been to MassDOT itself. And Mass Highway has taken it over to Federal Highway to have discussions with them. Everything's in the preliminary stage, but we need to have a consensus that this is a good idea. I'm giving it to the selectmen first. I did have a discussion with the individual members of the Traffic Commission to get their feeling to, you know, how does this work for them? What do they see as problems? We did come up with a few changes from the original plan that came back from Howard Stein Hudson, and I think they've addressed all of those. The idea was to make sure we didn't have cut-through traffic in the parking. I think we addressed that by bringing in traffic from Bryant Ave, in from Granite Ave, and everything will come out through Boulevard. Just the way the spacing is, we actually pick up more parking spaces than the other two models that we've presented before. With 37 spaces, we still get 2,000 square feet more of green space with this plan.
And just to kind of expand on the reasons why we flipped was based on a lot of the comments we got at the design public hearing, and just looking at it from kind of a connectivity standpoint and kind of where the pedestrian activity is, where the desire lines are for people and for the bicycles as well. We heard that, you know, they kind of like to come down Adams Street, and people, it's just kind of...
Could you turn the phone a little bit? I'm having a lot of trouble hearing.
Sure, sorry. It seems like the desire line is really to go down Adams Street and kind of keep going as if that road was still there. And a lot of the pedestrian activity is going to be on that north side of the deck, where it's closer to a lot of the shops that are along Granite Avenue as well. So it just seemed kind of a more natural area that pedestrians are going to want to gather. So that was another reason why we decided to flip around the park side, and just the configuration ended up working out. So, you know, we ended up with more green space and an extra parking spot. So it all kind of worked out really well. And, you know, looking at it, kind of taking it to the next level, I guess, with the bicycle combinations, which is going to be, you know, MassDOT's about to release new bike standards probably in November, and they're really going to be kind of focusing, you know, not just adding bike lanes or pavement markings, but kind of the separated bike facilities. So where we had the room, we tried to add some of that additional bicycle combinations as well. Up on Adams Street, as you're heading kind of southeast, there was, you know, a section of Adams Street that was just striped on the pavement, and so we were able to bump out the sidewalk in that area, and we're going to be proposing to do an at sidewalk grade separated cycle track in that area. So we, you know, we didn't change any of the traffic patterns, any of the, you know, lane configurations. That all stayed the same, but we were able to just take the space and just use it a little better based on all the feedback we heard from the design public hearing.
And we should probably just state for the record, Bill, you met with each of us individually, as well as some of the traffic commission members, to go through this and present it. Could you just talk a little bit about the size of the green space under this plan versus the prior plan?
This one has 2,000 square feet more of green than the other presentation.
Yeah, the previous one had about 15,000, and this one's about 17,000 square feet.
How is that possible?
I was actually thinking about that, and one of the reasons is because before, where we had the parking lot on the north side, we also had some wider sidewalk areas because we were proposing the 12-foot multi-use path that would have gone along Bryant Ave on the same area as the sidewalk. So now that space, you know, we're going to have the multi-use path going directly through the park, so we didn't need to take up parking area for that.
Interesting. I have one other question too. I'm glad to see we, you know, changed the plan we're looking at right here. I have my agenda notes. Just has the two entrance exits, but making that only entrances and having the exit go out on the boulevard, I think is great in terms of making sure it's not a cut through. But is that exit to the west part of that parking lot or the east?
It is to the west. It's closer to Bryant Avenue.
Yeah, my concern there is just people taking a left-hand turn from Bryant onto Boulevard. Will that be a hazard with people trying to pull out of that space, pull out of the parking lot at the same time?
Well, there's enough.
It won't be signalized at that point.
Right. There's enough separation between the exit of the parking lot and the lane on Bryant Avenue that if they're taking that turn, there should be enough distance for them to see a car coming out.
Okay. And will there be a line of sight anyways across the parking lot to be able to see? Or?
Sorry, I didn't catch that last one.
Will there be a line of sight across the parking lot to be able to see traffic on Bryant Ave?
Line of sight, yes.
Yes. Yeah, there won't be anything obstructing the view. It's just a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Bill, you had mentioned to me in our meeting that the south side, where the parking lot is now on this diagram, that is the noisiest side, which is probably much more beneficial for the parking, and the park being on the northern side,
yes,
where it's not as noisy.
Yes. I've actually heard from some of the people who have been working down on Granite Ave lately that at the end of 8 hours, their ears are tired. The amount of noise that comes in here that gets rocketed around inside the stone walls actually comes out and hits these businesses and homes right here. By doing this, that noise is picked up by the parking, not by the park. So it's a benefit to the park with less noise. You can actually have a conversation down here.
I'm just
that you
thinking of
can't
events and
down here.
families who spend time out there, that
Right.
it would be less noisy.
And again, you put the cars in here, it's going to block it a little bit too.
Bill, when we met, we talked about the exit going out onto Boulevard, but it wasn't on the plan at that point.
Right.
Just on the issue of cut-through traffic, I'm only wondering, and maybe this wouldn't be the case because you're so close anyway to the light on Bryant at that point, but if you were to come into the parking lot just to try to cut out onto Boulevard and beat the light there, did you give any thought to that as a potential cut-through? You know, coming off Bryant into the lot, right there, that's right,
here, going
and just
here.
cutting out, it's one light, it's probably unlikely, but
You've got it, you're closer here than you are come in.
yeah,
go.
that's
You might
what I
do
would
that
have thought.
once,
Initially,
you're not
I
gonna
think
do
you
it
were
again.
talking about putting the exit further into the middle of that row of parking spaces there. But now that it's up at the corner, that's the only thing that made me think of it when you said eliminate any possibility of cut-through traffic. But it is such a small area there that a driver's probably not saving any real time by doing that.
Right, and it might make just the geometry of the parking lot a little more tricky as far as, at least this kind of gives an area for cars to queue up if there, is a line
Yes.
exiting. But, I mean, we can still look at it more.
So, I think, we had discussed potentially having another, public meeting on this to get some more feedback from residents, which I think would be appropriate. Any more discussion on this?
Well, what plans do we have for that? What's the recommendation? What are the next steps with the
Yeah.
MassDOT and the others?
MassDOT's going to continue. Michael Trepanier from the environmental section, he was at the design public hearing as well, so he is going to continue to work on FHWA and kind of work on them to bring them on board. We really want their approval before we really progress the design, but we can still have, a public meeting to discuss the flip, and also, we talked about wanting to get the public involved when we get into the park design as well. So we would want to get all those things wrapped up before we advance the design.
I thought we talked about to get some initial feedback. And obviously, people see it on TV, and the design was up on the screen, so we can get some of that just through this meeting, but...
Right. Our ultimate goal here is to try to make this idea to be a de minimis change in what we have out here now. If it means we have to go back and meet with the different groups, we're going to do that. I'll be bringing it to the chamber the second week in October. So they'll get to look at it at that time. If I meet with them before, that's fine. I wanted to bring it here, get your blessing that this is a good way to go. And if that's true, then, I'll bring it back before the Traffic Commission, we'll bring it back before the chamber, and try to set up something that we can have other members of the public come back and make comment to it again. But it was getting your support first, and we'll put something together for a public meeting after that.
Yeah, I think it's a better plan. I don't know that we need to approve it or take an official vote.
No, I think that,
but-
we can make a motion of support.
Right.
I do think it's a better plan as well, but I'd like to continue to have at least some more discussions
Yep.
in the public forum.
Good, because
related
we've
to
got, we have Mass Highway and MassDOT bringing it to Federal Highway. I know they're having discussions all the time. As Mass Highway MassDOT brings forward their new bicycle regulations, this is designed for that too. It does answer their questions about, connectivity. It does come back to the revitalization of the area. And it gives us back some of the sidewalks. It does have the multi-use ability. And it gives you the sight lines that it actually is a park. So we think those are all benefits here.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I think it's a much preferable design than what we originally were contemplating. And I do like the connectivity of that multi-purpose lane right through the park. It gives people visiting the post office a clear path across through the square, clear and safe path. So I think it's great.
Good.
And plus, it might help us with our potential was it 4F problem or whatever it is.
Right.
Yes, that is the goal.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to take a vote on this? I'll move that we support the proposed changes to the East Milton Deck project.
Excellent, thank you.
I'll second that. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9 on the agenda is the acceptance of a Copeland Family Foundation gift. The Copeland family has made a donation in the amount of $748,211.62 to be divided between various town departments, including the fire department, the police department, the town hall, Department of Public Works, and Consolidated Facilities Department.
It's a very generous gift, so I'll move that we accept a gift in the amount of $748,211.62 from the Copeland Family Foundation for the purposes set forth in the September 22nd, 2015 letter to the town administrator.
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes.
And thank you again, Copeland Foundation, for their very generous gift.
Yeah,
Yes.
extremely appreciated.
And these are some very needed items.
No question. Okay, item number 10 is the approval of the Shade Tree Committee charge. Okay, the Board of Selectmen will appoint a Shade Tree Committee consisting of 5 members, each of whom will be appointed for a 1-year term. The committee shall consist of at least 3 members who are experienced arborists, landscapers, or nursery persons, and at least 1 person knowledgeable in municipal budgeting. The tree warden appointed by the Board of Selectmen under MGL Chapter 87 shall be an ex officio member of the committee. The purpose of this committee will be to act in an advisory committee and to make recommendations to the Board of Selectmen for the purpose of preserving and protecting all shade trees that exist on town property. Make a motion on that.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the charge for Shade Tree Advisory Committee as written.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. And I want to say that if anyone is interested in serving on this committee, to please go online and download a form on the town website, and at a future meeting, we will be making these appointments. I think this is a really needed committee to be put in place, and I think that it's going to clearly improve some of the landscape out in front of a lot of people's houses, and create some real continuity.
Trees are important, and we should thank Mr. Cronin and Anne Marie Fagan, who worked together on this charge.
No question.
John proposed this and was very adamant in pursuing it with us, and it's a good thing to do. Trees are very important for a number of reasons, so
Very
thank you, Anne
thankful.
Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Anne Marie, and thank you, Mr. Cronin. Item number 11 is the approval. The Kiwanis Club requests to host Granite Links Courtesy Day. As part of a lease agreement with the town, Quarry Hills has donated one day a year for a local nonprofit to hold a fundraiser at Granite Links. The organization that is awarded this opportunity is voted upon by the board, and once it is approved, it will apply to Quarry Hills to complete the process. The deadline for application is October 15th, and the Courtesy Day will be scheduled for a day in the fall of the following year.
I'll move that we approve the request of the Kiwanis Club of Milton to host a fundraiser on the Granite Links Courtesy Day in 2016.
Second.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item number 12 is the approval of a one-day liquor license to Milton Academy.
I'll move that we approve 2 one-day liquor licenses for Milton Academy. One for an event to be held at the Stratus Library from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., and one to be held at the Athletic and Convention Center from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Milton Academy on Saturday, October 24th, 2015.
A second. For purpose of discussion first. Yeah, and just it's not so much with this, but I know we just changed our rules with respect to the one liquor licenses in terms of the 60 days notice. Clearly, this thing probably hit before those rules went out. But my concern is, I know we sent letters out to those not-for-profit organizations, but did we get them to sign anything to acknowledge that they received them and understand them?
No, we did not.
That may not be a bad idea, to avoid somebody coming back to us a month from now saying, I never saw it.
We will reach out to those nonprofit organizations, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, number 13 on the agenda is boards and committees appointment, this one being the Capital Improvement Planning Committee.
I'll move that we appoint Lorraine D. of 27 Briarfield Road to serve on the Capital Improvement Planning Committee through August 2016.
I'll second.
Okay.
Tom, this is going to be like old home week for you on that committee now. A lot of familiar faces.
That's right. Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item...
Thank you to Lorraine for her
and
willingness
thank you.
to serve.
Yeah, we appreciate that,
She's going to be a
Lorraine.
good addition to this committee.
Item number 14 on our agenda is a conference with Cindy Christensen. Cindy acts as our Logan CAC liaison to the Board of Selectmen, and she will update our committee with the Bland's 3 report. So, Cindy, I know, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and attending tonight. I know you sent us a list of other things, but I'm going to ask you to, since we have a deep agenda tonight, to focus strictly on the Bland's 3 report, if you will.
Sure. Some of these other points, though, do relate to that, so I want to make sure you understand it. Tom asked me to take 5 to 10 minutes and said that you would ask questions if you have them, so please do that.
Yeah, and also, and I didn't want to cut you off, but I want to recognize David Godine here, who is our alternate CAC rep as well, so thank you for coming, David.
Well, I'll start off by saying the Logan CAC is in Bland's 3, test number 2, and after the last meeting in September that I attended, I'm here to say that I'm very concerned about what's going to happen to Milton if this plan is approved by the Logan CAC. And so I'm here to recommend some things that I hope will stop the Bland's 3 from actually happening. If you want an explanation of that, I can start with that, or I can start with my recommendations.
And also for people at home, Bland's is the...
Boston Logan airplane noise study. It's about 12 years old, but we're in phase 3, and this is in particular, I think it's about 12 years old. David, please correct me if I say anything incorrect, because he has the history that I don't have. But I believe the Bland's 3 was designed to allow and encourage overuse of runway 4 arrivals, and for Massport and the FAA to be able to say that they're overusing it under the recommendation of the Logan CAC. I believe that's the end product that they are hoping for. I have 3 recommendations. One is that the town of Milton contact Massport FAA, the Logan CAC president, and also the consultant, which I did not include in here, and ask for a meeting where they explain phase 3 to the Board of Selectmen and/or the public. The purpose for this recommendation is that they need to know that we're concerned. My second recommendation is to have every elected board, commission, committee, private school, and Boston Fair Skies, the grassroots group, write a letter to the Logan CAC president, Massport FAA, Phase 3 consultant, saying that they oppose the design of Phase 3 and that the testing should stop immediately. A new plan should be developed that more fairly distributes planes across the Metroplex. I'd also like to ask each of those boards, commissions, committees to reach out to a neighboring town and ask that they support Milton in this effort. I've done a lot of this outreach myself, and would be able to help with that. I've recently talked with someone from the Board of Health, or he's the health director in Randolph. I've got connections now in Quincy, Hyde Park, Roslindale, and even some of the towns north. I've talked with Lynch's and Timilty's office about my 3 recommendations, and they are on board. The reason I'm recommending this is I believe Milton needs a paper trail. I think we have to show that we're trying to do everything to stop the Blands 3 process that ensures that Milton will be overflown more than it is now. I've started this paper trail for you by trying to bring up the study flaws that I've discovered during the Logan CAC meetings and in emails to the president, the consultant, and the committee, and I'm not getting anywhere very fast. This is not something one person can do on their own. Several other members, along with me, see the flaws, but we don't have the numbers to stop it. I'm confident that I can get others like Tim McCarthy, the town of Randolph, city of Quincy, Hyde Park, Roslindale to join us in this. Milton currently receives about 33% of arrivals, whereas the PRAS goals, which I think you're familiar with, which are still applicable as recorded in recent meeting minutes that I found. This was this year. PRASGO says it should be about 20 to 25%. I expect and I predict that Milton will have at least 40% of the arrivals under this new plan that we're testing now, and maybe as much as 50%. I wanted to bring up that yes, we do have pollution problems since the May 2014 publication of the LAX scientific study of ultrafine particles. In air traffic, there's been 2 more published studies in respectable journals that show increased ultrafine particle counts from planes. These were both in Toronto and in the Netherlands. I want to make sure that you're aware of another phase of Next Gen that has not hit Logan, Boston Logan yet. It's, no one can ever remember this name, but I wrote it out for you. Optimization of Airspace and Procedures in the Metroplex, OAPM. Both the Phoenix and the Georgetown lawsuits involve this phase of the Next Gen. Logan is in queue for the OAPM to happen here. Basically what it is they've been working on the airspace at 3,000 feet and below, and we all know what's been happening there. The OAPM works on the airspace at 3,000 feet and above, and its major goal is to get as many planes to where they need to go as quickly as possible and to be able to increase that. The reason that this is important to us is that the OMP focuses on demand. So what they mean by that is, do we have airports that can land enough planes, depart enough planes? The reason that Logan is further behind in this process and not at current attention as Phoenix and the Georgetown area and several others are, is because that they can land 61 planes an hour using the 4s. So they're counting on that. There's one other configuration that they can use as a backup, and that's 59 per hour. So right now, we're not getting 61 per hour in most of the time, but they know that as demand increases, they've got the 2 parallel runways, they've almost got the RNAVs in place, and they're gonna be using them with the endorsement of the Logan CAC committee from the study that we're doing now. I feel like I'm saying the sky is falling, I'm Chicken Little with an acorn hitting my head, but I really do think that this is serious, and I've tried very hard bending the rules a little bit, which the Logan CAC does not, it's not a public committee, it doesn't follow, it's a nonprofit corporation, so it doesn't follow open meeting laws. Tried to get some of this taken care of through emails and phone calls, and it's just more than one person can do. I'll let you read the Massport CAC information, unless you'd like me to mention it. Let me skip to the 4L RNAVs. In the current president of the Logan CAC gave me a copy of the Logan Towers standard operating procedure, and I read most of it, and what I found was that it said that the 4L visual RNAV was in place for JetBlue airplanes. Previous to this, the FAA had told me when I asked that nothing had happened. They're sticking with that. I don't know who is right at this point. Another point I wanted to mention to you in case it's important for something the town decides to do, the software that calculates the DNL was officially changed as of May 2015. I've asked around, I'm trying to find somebody who's familiar with the software, have not found that. There's some talk among some of the experts on the Logan CAC that the arrivals are actually louder than the departures. There's a sound engineer who's a member of that, and he's very adamant that they've got that wrong in the input, which of course I think anyone in Milton under one of these arrivals would agree with. I've been getting calls from Timothy's office and Lynch's office, and I've been trying to help them whenever they ask. Just last night, the Lynch's Washington, D.C. office asked me for some clarification and some statistics, which I was able to help him with. I've asked several people about something that one of the previous speakers brought up about why are we getting the southeast winds and the arrivals for southeast winds. I've asked about that from some of the people who have been on the Logan CAC a while. Some of the answers I'm getting are there's somebody in the state senate now from Everett who used to be a CAC representative, and it flies over his house. It's close to Capuano. I've also heard Tufts is very vocal, and they don't want the planes arriving over them. I've also heard that because of the congestion in that area compared to a place like Milton, the flight paths, the 1.5 miles either side has to be even more narrow. I don't know what it is, but I think it's something that we need to continue to ask about. You have questions? I've got other little recommendations, things like that for the ANAC committee that I've been adding to. I've got questions, some of which I've asked in the past when I haven't had a response from the town. I do find it extremely difficult to know. I asked the question, didn't get a response. How would you guys like for me to communicate with the ANAC when my appointment to the ANAC was not renewed? I try to reach out to the group, and I don't get a response. I think that it's troublesome to me.
But just to clarify that point, Cindy, I thought you were invited to the last ANAC meeting.
I was not reappointed to the ANAC meeting.
No, you were invited to the next ANAC.
I'm not disputing that. I was not reappointed to the ANAC meeting, to committee.
Right, but you were invited to that committee's meeting to update.
I was removed from the ANAC meeting.
But you were invited as the town CAC liaison to their committee to update them as well as the board on your work.
I agree, and that was after I was removed from the committee. So I think we're in agreement on the sequence of how things happen. I think that it's unfair to ask me to attend and report to a committee that where I was removed from. I'm working very hard.
I think what I want to say for the record, though, prior to that, you had suggested you were resigning from that committee. So
I said
for the
that
record,
if that was a problem, that we could consider it.
and one of the things that we ask as our representative, as liaison to the CAC, is in you're representing us, the Board of Selectmen in the town of Milton, that you're able to work with other committees so that they're able to get the information.
I've proven that I'm able to work with other committees.
Okay, well, I understand that, but we asked you to attend a meeting and you respectfully declined, and it's about sharing information, which we hope that you might do on our behalf.
Please tell me when I have not shared information, David.
Well, Cindy, I think the request was by Anne Marie was for you to meet with that committee, which canceled their meeting. They were going to meet, when was it, yesterday? Last night?
And we're going to be having a discussion tonight.
I invited.
Have this presentation that you were having tonight with that committee as well. I think that was the request.
Let me ask, do you think that's okay? To be removed from a committee and then be asked to come back and work for that committee or report to them when it's all, the information sharing has been one directional from the start? To my defense, I said, have the chair of the committee call me. I didn't get a phone call. I didn't.
What we're looking for, and we appreciate the information that you are sharing with us, and we're looking to obviously do that in a collaborative manner across the board. And that's simply what we're looking for.
But you're implying that I haven't been doing that, and that's offensive to me.
Cindy, I think what we're doing is correcting a statement that's just been made as to how do you communicate with that committee. The town administrator asked you to come in and brief the committee, and as the CAC representative, give them an update, this exact same update that you're giving us, for them at their separate meeting, because they can't all be here at the same time, you know.
I looked down, excuse me, but I looked down at question number 2, and I'm just respectfully noting that you've asked how to best communicate with the ANIC, and our town administrator told you that the best way to communicate with them would be to come in to give them an update to their meeting. So that's simply just answering the question that you've asked. And, I respectfully understand your point, but you want to communicate with the ANIC, and we're saying that that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, I think we'll say more on this later. We're all on the same team here. We're all wearing the same color shirts,
And I think
right?
that's one of the...
It has not been that obvious.
Cindy, let me finish my point. We're all working towards a common goal here, and there are different ways of doing it. A grassroots group doesn't officially represent the town. It can take some actions that may not be appropriate for an official town committee to take. But working together through different means, we can try to accomplish a common goal. You know, there was a comment earlier tonight, inaction by the town. There has not been inaction by the town. The town has taken a lot of steps, and we've all been at various meetings, and we've all had conversations with state and federal, especially Anne Marie's been very much in communication with Congressman Lynch's office. So I think we're all trying to work together here. This is a time not for division, but it's a time for unity, and it's a time for us all to be working towards the same goal. And I think that's all we're saying. Your information would benefit when we say the ANAC, the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee, that's a jointly appointed committee by this board and the Board of Health that has some town officials on it, it has some volunteers on it. Cindy, you were on it at one time. A member of the Board of Health is the chair of the committee, and we have a lot of interested residents who are willing to work very hard. That's, in answer to your question, how do you communicate with them? That would be one way, to come into the meeting and talk about what you've learned at your recent meetings about the Blands 3 study and update them just like you're updating us. Now, they can turn on the TV and watch the replay of this tonight, but they might have questions, or there might be a productive dialogue that could take place at a meeting between you and them. So that's one way of communicating with them.
I want to make just a point that, and I think this is good. There is a ton of passion here, okay? A ton of knowledge from several different people across the town in many arenas, doing different things, bringing more things to the table, okay? We are with you on this. But we want, okay, to find a way to bring everybody together, to share all of the commonalities, and to use everybody's strengths to enable us to fight as one Milton. And I think that that's our overall goal, and I couldn't be clearer. The planes go directly over my porch. I can't go outside and have dinner too. I empathize with all of you, okay? I have little kids. Every single thing that you tell me and that I hear from residents, I agree and I stand with you. Okay? I've been on this board now only for 5 months. I'm taking in a lot of information. I'm talking about me individually. I know that my colleagues stand right with me in fighting this fight, along with our town administrator. We want to work together with all of the residents and the boards and committees and our higher elected officials. Mr. Joe Henning mentioned earlier that this board needs to do more. This board is working, okay? I talk to Representative Timilty all the time, Lynch's office. We talk to them. Remember, we work with them, and they work with the FAA and Massport as well. So it's a collaborative effort, and also, we sat and attended a lunch with Representative Capuano, Congressman Capuano, and he told us to be very careful on how we approach this. He's on the National Transportation Committee. He told us to be very calculated about this stuff. And we're trying to follow what we know is best and try to work with people and groups to ensure that we're doing the best for all of Milton.
That was well said, David, and I agree with that. It has to be a collaborative effort. We all have to be, my house is overflown by planes all the time as well, so all the comments that were made.
I know that the planes are overflying you.
All the comments that were made earlier tonight, we all agree with. because we're all
We agree.
experiencing the same thing. So we're very sympathetic to them, and I, applaud all the people who came up to speak to us and share their experiences with us. We're experiencing that too, and the goal here is for us all to be working together.
2 points. The planes that fly over you compared to the planes that fly over people in Milton east of you, they get 5 times as many. And they've been coming to you for several years, you meaning the town. The second thing I want to say is words don't work anymore. Actions do. I've been hearing for 2 years now that we're all in agreement, we're all in agreement. And yet you're accusing me of being the one who's not sharing information.
Cindy, we haven't accused you of anything.
Can I finish, please? I tried to find out when the Massport meeting was. The Massport, it's a public meeting. I could not get that information from our town administrator or from our Massport CAC representative. That's how bad it is. And then you turn around and you make it seem like I'm the one not giving information?
Cindy, I didn't hear any accusation to that effect.
Not at all.
So I think
It does not work that way for me.
All right, if the conversation here is not going to be productive, then I don't think we can accomplish anything at this point
Okay,
with the
I'd
meeting.
like to end it myself.
You've given us some good information. We appreciate
the
work that
information you
you're
have
doing,
shared.
Cindy. Thank you for your time and effort on this.
I don't need your appreciation, I need your action. We all do. We all do. I answer the phone and people are upset and crying. I'm taking that load off of you. I don't need your thanks, I don't need your appreciation, I need your action.
Okay, we hear from residents on this, the town administrator hears from them, we as elected officials hear from them, and on the issue of action, this board has taken actions in the past, okay? And we've done it working with residents such as Cindy, such as Phil, such as others who have, such as our Christy Ambuto, our former CAC representative, David Godin, who's been the alternate member of the CAC for a number of years. We just filed a very strong comment letter on the proposed 4L runway, and that was with the help of our town council, who's sitting in the back of the room, who spent an awful lot of time on that. So we're going to have a meeting, an executive session with her later on this evening. There's a lot that's going on. It's not always talked about at a public meeting, but there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of effort that we're undertaking, and people need to keep that in mind. And not every post on a Facebook page and not everything that's told is necessarily representative of what the facts are as to what this board is doing. And I would ask people to keep that in mind. We're trying to work as a team here. We're all on the same team, and we need to keep that in mind. We need to be united. But thank you for your report, Cindy. David, did you have anything to add?
I took him up to the table.
Come up, David, thank you.
You can grab this one. Yes. You've had the emails from them.
I don't have a dog in this fight. I attend the ANC meetings. I do not want to be the representative.
I can't hear.
Yeah, you're going to have to push the microphone up, David, thank you.
You guys have a problem with this. You have a problem with the CAC. You have a major problem with the CAC. Are you aware of this problem?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then I don't have to discuss it. Do I?
I'll defer to you. You're the acting chair.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it would be, for the record, I think that you should probably.
I'll just read the letter. This is a letter from Darrell, which I got today, and Anne Marie got it. I've been corresponding Darrell. Darrell is the president of the CAC. The CAC, I would be the first to admit, is a problematic body which has not done very much in the past to equitably distribute or come up with a plan to equitably distribute noise among the member communities for reasons I think we all understand, because they're representing a lot of communities. There's politics involved, there's technical data involved, they're listening. I mean, Cindy is awfully good with the technical stuff, but if you just looked at the number of emails one gets from Darrell, it's overwhelming. I mean, I get probably 3 a day, and I can't even read them. But for the record, you should listen to this. I just forwarded a dozen emails since December 2013 detailing my substantial efforts to try to help Milton. I understand that Cindy is no longer a member of the Milton Noise Advisory Committee. I understand her departure was not her initiative. I understand that Cindy's term as Logan CAC representative ends October 2015. I haven't checked that. I assume it's correct. This is a quote from Cindy. I will not stop trying to communicate with Rob. Rob is a consultant who basically is hired by the FAA to provide data and suggest solutions to the various communities. With Rob, until I get answers to my questions, end quote. Cindy refuses to stop behavior unacceptable from any representative in any organization. You recognize very well the problems, difficulties, and impossibilities of trying to work with her. I have never said that to Darrell. The current Boston Logan Airport Noise Abatement Study Phase 3 for a new runway use program and a noise abatement committee for monitoring with reporting to enforce compliance is the chance of a lifetime to get some relief, simply. More equitable distribution of noise impacts is the course for attainable, enforceable relief. We will not get there with Cindy. I won't be there with Cindy. Milton will not beat Massport and the FAA with Cindy. Milton will not be unified with Cindy. It's time for Milton to appoint a new Logan Airport CAC representative. I think David, that's me, I decline this position, represents Milton extremely well. I think Chris represented Milton very well as he was gaining experience, and there seem to be other possibilities with the ANAC. So what you have here really is the president of the CAC, if not putting Milton at risk, at least putting Milton on notice that he no longer wants to work with our rep. I'm not here to make recommendations. I'm not here to say one is fair and one isn't fair, to defend Cindy or not to defend Cindy or Darrell. But you have a problem, because when the head of the organization says, I don't want to work with Milton, and you guys are trying to, as you say, bring Milton together and have one unified voice, this email does not suggest that DAC is on board with your plan.
Thank you.
David, may I respond to that, please? What? This, David, may I respond to it, please?
If you could limit it to a minute or two.
I'll just say,
Come on up. You can come up and sit.
I'll just say, the last thing Milton needs to do right now is to play the game in the way that the Goliath has defined the terms. If we do that, then let's all move. It's not going to be pretty. I really can't believe I'm being thrown under the bus once again.
You're very passionate about these issues.
No, let's not use the word passionate. I care about people. I care about Milton. I'm trying to, I mean, really, if this is what Milton's going to do, then I would like to say publicly, anyone who's concerned about their lungs, their kids, the noise, their ability to sleep, it's time to get out of Milton.
Okay. Cindy, we appreciate your passion for the issue. You've done an awful lot of hard work. As a board, we're going to have to think about some of our next steps here, but, you know, you have a lot of technical knowledge on this. We had to respond to your comments and questions to us, so unfortunately this conversation took a different turn, but we do appreciate all of your work, and I know that you put in an awful lot of time and effort, and we have to work together. We have to work as the CAC is a group. I don't recall what town Darrell represents, but he is a member of this. He's another community's designee to the CAC. So all of the CAC representatives get together and choose the president. So he's a member representing another town, as Cindy and David are representing our towns.
Yeah, and I'd like to just make one final point, and it's a little analogy, and it's using sports, and I was very fortunate enough to play sports at a high level and play on a team. I think that, you know, a lot of people have a lot of abilities and passions on this and special interests, and I think that, you know, as we move forward, we can tap into those to make a stronger team. And I think that that should be our goal, to utilize everyone's talents on various issues to get what we want. And I think ultimately, you know, I have heard the people speak tonight. I understand. I think my colleagues understand. We want what you want. And so I'm going to leave it at that and end the discussion on this. But thank you all for having a frank discussion. It's been very helpful. Okay, I'm going to move to item number 15 on the agenda, and that's the town administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing that I want to remind the Board of Selectmen and the residents of the town is the Sunday festivities for Celebrate Milton on October 4th, and hope everybody is able to. It's a wonderful festival that brings the whole community together.
We've been the last couple of years as a family, and my kids really enjoy it, and there's a lot of activities, and you know, I think also there's a lot of opportunity to learn about how Milton does operate as a town. How can people get resources, find information, and also meet new friends. I think that's a great point. Mr. Chairman, do you have a report?
I do not have anything to report tonight.
Okay, we'll move on to the members' report. I don't have anything at this time, though I do want to recognize the Wildcat football team. Starting 3-0 and beating Walpole, and I was talking to my neighbor, Eddie Baker, who writes the illustrious sports section that everybody checks out every Thursday, and he asked me when was the last time Milton Milton beat Walpole and Natick in the same year, and I'm not sure that ever happened. So let's put that out there to all the viewers, and maybe we'll get an answer to that for Eddie. Katie, do you have anything?
I have just two quick things to mention, and one is just a reminder of something that Tom announced at the last meeting, which is that right before Celebrate Milton on Sunday, the Run Milton Half Marathon will be taking place. It starts at 8 o'clock this Sunday morning at Town Hall, and it's a big fundraiser for the Council on Aging. So the committee that's running this, which does include my sister, asked that we just announce an opportunity for everybody to come out and show their support for Milton and for the Council on Aging. And there's a few key locations around town. Adams Street is going to be Milton's Heartbreak Hill for the day. The race will go through the Central Ave and the Milton Village Business District, so a lot of the shops there will be open, and some of them are taking part. Turner's Pond, there's going to be a big delegation of, I think the Dorchester Running Club will be there giving out water. I'm going to be working at one of the water stations, and I know, David, you said you might be taking part in this. So it is a great fundraiser for the Council on Aging, and 8 o'clock Sunday morning at Town Hall, anyone to bring kids and family members and just come out and cheer and celebrate the runners and cheer them on. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that congratulations to the Milton Times on their 20th anniversary. I went to their celebration anniversary dinner on Friday night. It was very nice, and wanted to congratulate Pat Desmond and the entire staff at the Milton Times for their 20th anniversary. I know they have a special issue coming out soon, and they gave the award, speaking of Eddie Baker, they gave the award to Eddie Baker.
So,
yes.
And he gave me a hard time. My wife and I weren't able to attend, and I feel awful that we weren't, but I'm glad to hear that it was such a success, and congratulate Pat and all the staff of the Milton Times for such a great turnout. Okay, so number 18 is citizen speak response.
Yeah, well, first with respect to the curry thing, Anne Marie and myself did have a meeting over at what's his name?
Pat Greeley.
Pat Greeley's house, yes, and unfortunately at that time, there was nothing going on, so we listened to him. After that, we did have a meeting with both Emily and John Flynn to kind of discuss, specifically the lights, in terms of is there anything we can do? Are they covered by Dover Amendment? Are they not covered? The structure, if it's a structure, did it need a building permit? Did it get a building permit? So we asked all those questions, and to a large degree, the noise bylaw article that just came out was the genesis of that meeting. So we're doing what we can on it. One thing I might suggest is maybe toward some night when there is a football game or some event over there that all of us go over there and experience it firsthand. It's kind of hard to experience it if there's nothing going on. But I'd be curious to see just how loud that music is, and how obtrusive those lights are.
That's a good idea, Tom, because I was there too on a night that there was no lights on, the music, so it is hard to really get a sense of it. But I think we're all sympathetic to Pat Greeley's situation. He's the one who presented the warrant article a few years ago, and the Dover Amendment is a serious issue here. So, but that is a good idea to go out and experience it on a night that we know definitely the noise and the lights will be in operation.
If we experience it, maybe we can, then all of us go forward to Curry and say, oh, gosh, either it is or it isn't really offensive, and maybe get something accomplished that way, because it's so unclear what Dover Amendment covers and what it doesn't cover.
Yeah, and the planning board was, before they withdrew it, they were looking at an institutional review bylaw, and I think I watched their most recent meeting, and I'm pretty sure they said that would be one of their priorities going forward for May. So I know that they are going to be turning their attention back to it, but again, you have an issue of prospective application rather than it helping this immediate situation. So this situation probably does need some direct communications to follow up with Curry.
I agree.
Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to say was, with respect to all the airplane noise stuff, and I agree with all of you that it is a problem in Milton. It's a huge problem in Milton, and we are doing our best to try to do something about it. The fact we're having an executive session tonight on it, we've talked many times to town council about it and what the proper course of action is. But the one thing I know for certain is that airplane traffic into Logan is not going to diminish. And part of the reason for that is because Boston has become such a cultural center, such a business center. Boston's growing, and rightfully so. People should visit Boston. It's good for our economy. It's good for a lot of things. So airplane traffic is not going to diminish. The issue is how we get it fairly distributed, and I think we have to focus on what we can accomplish and determine what that is and work towards that goal, as opposed to trying to take pot shots all over the place and going around without any direction at all. And we're not going to stop technology. Technology in terms of next gen, is probably not going to go away. That there will be, some kind of guidance system that is GPS based or satellite based. And you're not going to stop it. So the issue is again equity. And we all know that from there was I think it was a Rotary meeting that there was an expert on airplane noise that gave a 15-minute talk, and he said clearly airplanes can be designed to run quieter. Airplanes can be designed to be more fuel friendly in terms of not dropping particulate. The problem is airplanes last for a very, very long time. Even if we started right now doing that, the planes that are around now are going to be around for 20, 25, 30 years. They go from the big airlines to the smaller airlines, so they'll go away for a long time. That's a problem. But clearly, trying to, the federal government did it with cars in terms of making them, more emission friendly, and it could do it with airplanes too if it wanted to. It's just for whatever reason it's chosen not to.
I think that's very well said, Tom. And I think we spoke a lot about it earlier, about airplane noise, and I think that obviously we'll be meeting with town council, and we take this matter very serious. And our goal is to alleviate the amount of air traffic over Milton. As you said, it isn't going away. Boston is an international city, but I think that our focus should be on finding ways to alleviate and to really redistribute that airplane traffic to other communities as well. So it's well shared.
Just on the following up on some of the comments, unfortunately there were comments tonight, and there were very passionate comments from people about their experiences, and we all share them and understand that. There were a few references at different times, inaction by the town, no action from the town. And I think a lot of that is generated, and I think that a lot of the participation here tonight is generated by a letter to the editor that the Boston Fair Skies group, which is a grassroots group, submitted to the Milton Times. It was published last week. I sent both of you over the weekend, a draft of a response letter to the editor that I wrote up. If you're interested in signing off on it, we'll make it from all three of us. If not, I'm happy to submit it myself. It's important, I think, that we respond to some of these allegations. That letter mentioned no involvement by the selectmen, no support from the selectmen. That is just plain false. We've been involved in this on a number of different levels, and there's a citation of a number of the meetings that the grassroots group had and attended and maybe even organized over the past year or two, and we were at many of those meetings. That's a group that has done a lot of hard work, no question, but it bears repeating, we are all on the same team here, and we need to work together. It's not a time for division, it's a time for unity, and it's not helpful when we have letters to the editor basically claiming that the selectmen haven't done anything. That's just not true. And in this response, assuming it's our response, or if you all want to sign on to it, I think we need to state, so I put forth a few things that we have done, including the very strong comment letter that Town Council drafted and had some input from the Airplane Noise Advisory Committee, from Cindy Christensen, the CAC rep, from the board. So there's been a lot more that's gone on, but we need to highlight the things that we've done, because it's unfortunate that there's a Facebook page and there's this letter to the editor, and if the perception is out there is that the town is not doing anything, then that's, number one, untrue, and number two, unfortunate, and it's not helping any of us. So I hope that the folks who are here tonight, the different representatives on different committees, we all need to be working together here. And we can have different means of doing things, but we need to be productive, and we need to be positive, and we need to be committed to getting a good result. And I think I know we're all committed to doing that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that when we talk about the negatives, it takes people away from what we are working to accomplish.
That's right.
And I think that our focus should be on what we can attain as a group, and as I said earlier, extracting information from every individual who brings something to the table. That's what a good team does. They all play a role. Everybody has a role, and I think that that's the way we have to look at this, because, yeah, it is a big fight, but at the same time, it's a fight that we can win if we all decide to work together in a positive manner.
That's right.
So
shall we submit the letter to the editor?
Yes.
As a board?
I'm in favor of that.
Tom, you're okay with that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, what you said.
The letter to the editor, you're okay with, we'll put your name on it?
Yeah, I read that, and I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, number 19 on the agenda is future agenda items.
I don't have anything specifically tonight.
I don't either at this point in time. Okay, so we'll move on to item number 20, which is recess to the meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund.
You want to read that one?
Yep, so I'll move that we recess the meeting to the Board of Selectmen to attend the meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund and return to open session to enter into executive session of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Ms. Hurley? I'm sorry, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley, yes, and Mr. Burns, yes. Okay.
So I'll move that we approve the meeting minutes of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust from May 5th, May 7th, June 2nd, and June 16th, 2015, as written.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item number 22 is a request for a donation. Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital. Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital Milton provides free medical care to disadvantaged residents of the town. In FY 2015 BID Milton, the value of the care they provided to the residents for which the hospital was not paid totaled $87,556. Hospital has requested renewed support from the trustee in the amount of $5,000 to defray the cost of providing the care to needy residents.
I'll move that we approve the request of Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital Milton for a donation of $5,000 to help defray the cost of free care provided to needy residents of Milton.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Item number 23 on the agenda, adjourn the meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund. I'll move that we adjourn the meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Fund and return to open session of the Board of Selectmen's meeting.
Second.
Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, item number 24 is executive session. Pursuant to 940, well, I'll just go right to the motion. Move to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation and to consider the purchase, exchange, taking, lease, or value of real property, believing that having such discussions in open session would have a detrimental effect on the litigating or negotiating position of the board, and to return to open session for the purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hurley, you need to state that there is no one present at
There
your
is no one present.
Okay, Ms. Conlon?
Yes.
Chairman Hurley?
Yes.
And Mr. Burns, yes. Okay, so we will now go into executive session.